This video was made possible thanks to War Thunder. It's 2026 and the world snaps back into the alliance map of 1945. Germany, Japan, and Italy are treated as the modern Axis. Opposing them are the United States, China, Russia, the United Kingdom, and France. A rebuilt Grand Alliance. The key difference from 1939 is simple. The Axis are rich and advanced, but strategically fragile. The Allies control roughly 3/4 of the world's GDP, almost all nuclear weapons, and overwhelming naval power. The Axis depends heavily on imported energy, raw materials, and trade routes they simply cannot defend. This time, it wouldn't begin with blitzkriegs. It would begin with blockades, cyber strikes, and the blocking of supply chains. Politically, the alliance is unstable. The US, China, and Russia are rivals forced together by a common enemy. Instead of one command, the world is divided into zones. The US dominates the Atlantic and Pacific. China focuses on Japan. Russia presses Germany from the east, a situation that, on its own, would make many in the region deeply uncomfortable. Russia is also already weakened economically and militarily by the conflict in Ukraine. The UK and France handle Western Europe and the Mediterranean. And even before the first major battle, a quiet competition begins. Whoever reaches Berlin or Tokyo first will shape the next world order. Air and sea. The situation in the air is decided fast. Germany and Japan rely heavily on the American F-35 fighter jet. In a war against the United States, those planes effectively become useless, as many of their systems are controlled from the US. That forces the Axis to fall back on older jets like Germany's Eurofighter and Japan's F-15 and F-2. Those are capable planes, but they are not stealth and struggle against modern long-range air defenses and fifth-generation fighters. In a real conflict, technical differences like these often decide the fate of nations, but they also make for compelling combat scenarios, which brings us to the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. It simulates the specific armor thickness, internal components, and ballistics of over 2,500 tanks, planes, and ships. While in this video we discuss the logistical nightmare of operating without oil or chips, War Thunder lets you focus on the tactical reality. You can experience how a Japanese F-15 or a German Leopard 2 performs against their Soviet or American counterparts in a combined arms environment. I personally appreciate the damage model. If a shell penetrates your armor, it doesn't just subtract points, it knocks out your loader or ignites your ammunition, forcing you to adapt your strategy instantly. It's completely free to play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, and we've arranged a massive bonus pack for you. But you need to use the links in the pinned comment and description below. This bonus is available for both new players and returning ones who haven't played in at least 6 months on PC and consoles. Click the links in the description to get your premium vehicles, 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of premium account, and more. Now, back to our video. Meanwhile, the Allies field thousands of advanced jets, US F-22s and F-35s, China's J-20, and Russia's Su-57. Within weeks, Axis air forces are overwhelmed. At sea, the imbalance is even worse. The United States operates 11 supercarriers, and China has a growing carrier fleet. The UK and France add their own carriers. Japan and Italy have light carriers, but without functioning F-35s, they are reduced to helicopter ships, with limited offensive power. The one area where the Axis initially fights back is submarines. Germany's Type 212A and Japan's Taige-class submarines are among the quietest in the world and could sink Allied ships early on. But the Allies have far more ships, planes, and underwater sensor networks, so Axis submarines are gradually hunted down faster than they can be replaced. On land, the picture is mixed. Germany's Leopard 2 is among the best tanks in the world, but Germany fields only just over 100 of the newest versions. Russia, despite heavy losses in Ukraine, still has thousands of tanks and vast artillery forces, even if their real effectiveness is now questionable. Drones change everything. Cheap, mass-produced attack drones turn expensive tanks into easy targets. The US, China, and Russia can produce these at scale. Germany and Japan cannot, leaving their smaller, high-tech armored forces vulnerable to drone swarms. Economic war. Let's be honest, this would be won in factories and fuel depots before it is won on battlefields. Here, the Axis face a structural disaster. Germany, Japan, and Italy lead the world in precision manufacturing, robotics, optics, and advanced machinery. But it all depends on imported steel, rare earths, oil, and gas. The moment the Allied navies seal the seas, that system collapses. Germany, after cutting itself off from Russian gas in the early 2020s, relies on LNG terminals and North Sea pipelines from Norway. In this scenario, those supplies are cut immediately. Germany's strategic oil reserves last about 90 days in peacetime, but in full mobilization, they would likely run out in 3 to 4 months, grounding its air force and slowing its mechanized units. Japan is even more exposed. It imports over 99% of its oil and nearly all of its gas. US and Chinese navies close its shipping routes through the South China Sea and the Strait of Malacca. Without fuel, Japan cannot sustain either its economy or its military. Italy faces the same trap. It depends heavily on gas from North Africa and Azerbaijan. Once French and US navies control the Mediterranean, those supplies are cut off and Italy is pushed to the front line. The chip issue makes things worse. Japan and Germany control key parts of the chip supply chain: special chemicals, wafers, and ultra-precise lenses. Early in the war, this disrupts Allied tech industries. But the Axis do not produce the most advanced chips at scale. Those mainly come from the US and Taiwan. Once their stockpiles of high-tech weapons run low, Germany, Japan, and Italy struggle to replace them, while the Allies adapt and recover. In short, the Axis is excellent at making high-value products, but once their supply lines are cut, they cannot keep their war machine running. 2 fronts. In Europe, Germany comes under pressure from both east and west. From the west, France, the UK, and US forces push toward the Rhine. Allied aircraft strike German air defenses, airfields, and command centers with long-range missiles. German Patriot batteries resist at first, but are eventually overwhelmed. Germany might try to move into the Netherlands to seize Rotterdam, but without air superiority, its armored units are badly hit by American helicopters and ground attack aircraft. From the east, Russia advances from Belarus and Kaliningrad through the Suwalki Gap between Poland and Lithuania. Poland becomes the decisive factor. Its army has been steadily growing stronger and would likely block or seriously delay any German advance, while strongly preferring US support over Russian troops on its soil. In the Mediterranean, Italy collapses under naval pressure. French and American fleets dominate the sea. Italian ships with little air cover are exposed to Allied strikes. Within 6 months, the Allies land in Sicily and turn it into a major forward airbase. Facing economic collapse and invasion, Italy fractures politically and likely surrenders. In the Pacific, Japan faces both the US and China. Japan builds a porcupine defense with long-range missiles on Okinawa and nearby islands, making any invasion costly. China responds with massive missile strikes on Japanese airfields, radars, and missile sites, quickly stretching Japan's defenses. Then comes the blockade. The US cuts Japan off from the Americas and the Middle East, while China enforces a close blockade nearby. Japanese submarines score early successes, but are gradually worn down by superior Allied anti-submarine forces. To force surrender, the Allies seize territory. China focuses on Okinawa and the Ryukyu Islands, while Russia lands on Hokkaido. Japanese forces fight hard, but without air cover or resupply, they eventually lose the north. The shadow of war. Beyond bombs and ships, this war is fought in cyberspace and orbit. The Allies launch massive cyber attacks on Axis infrastructure, power grids, banks, rail networks, and industrial systems. Japan's older digital systems are especially vulnerable, and German weapons factories are disrupted by Russian malware. In space, the US, Russia, and China can destroy satellites. They deny navigation signals like GPS and Galileo to Germany and Japan, blinding missile guidance and military coordination. The Axis have no way to replace lost satellites in a contested war. The biggest danger is nuclear breakout. Germany and Japan do not have nuclear weapons, but both have the technical ability to build them quickly. Japan could potentially assemble a crude weapon within months. Germany might try to repurpose civilian nuclear material. The Allies treat this as an absolute red line. US, Chinese, and Russian intelligence services race to detect any attempt, ready to strike or conduct raids to stop it. The war becomes a race against time to prevent the Axis from going nuclear. The aftermath. This scenario would not end with a final battle, but an economic collapse inside the Axis. Japan and Germany, the world's third and fourth largest economies, are devastated. The euro and yen crash, and global markets slide into a deep depression. The world splits in two. However, what are the chances that the US would now join forces with Russia and China? They might cooperate, but with the vision of taking their own share of influence, whether in Eastern Europe, Taiwan, or Greenland. But even in our original scenario, territorially, the map changes. Japan is partitioned. Russia takes Hokkaido. China controls Okinawa and Kyushu, and the US occupies Tokyo and much of Honshu. Japan becomes the Germany of the Pacific, divided between rival superpowers. In Europe, the EU effectively dissolves. Germany is demilitarized or partitioned. Russia expands its influence in Eastern Europe, while Western Europe aligns more tightly under US leadership in a smaller new alliance. As soon as the Axis fall, US-China-Russia cooperation collapses and a new three-way Cold War begins. In other words, the Axis could not win, but defeating them would destroy much of the world we know. Thanks to War Thunder for supporting this channel. If you want to test these vehicles yourself, don't forget to use the links in the description to claim your free bonus pack. This bonus is available for both new players and returning ones who haven't played in at least 6 months on PC and consoles. It's a great way to jumpstart your progress. If you want to see if a US Marine platoon could conquer the Roman Empire, watch the video you see now on the screen. Thanks for watching.